Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm doing a video all about my favorite eyeshadows. And this is inspired by a girl, I don't remember her channel name, but I will link it down below her video, that Emily's makeup bag shared on her story, and she was doing her 12 favorite eyeshadow shades and pulling them from different palettes and singles and stuff like that. And I was gonna do that, but I thought it would be more fun, because I can't decide, to do my favorite eyeshadow in every palette that I own. So showing you my entire palette collection for one, and then also my favorite shade in each one. It is a lot of shimmers because I find shimmers make a palette stand out more, but I still find importance in mattes, if that makes sense. But I didn't pick that many because I think once you have like each matte that you use, you kind of have them all. So anyways, let's get into this video. So my first palette is such a pricey palette, but it's the Pat McGrath Divine Rose 1. It's the Mothership, I don't know, just says Mothership, but it's one of the Mothership palettes, and this is what it looks like. My favorite shade, hands down, I have to look, is the shade Astral Solstice. It's this one right here, and it looks like fairy dust on the eyes, and I have described this shadow so much. It's like a, not loosely pressed, but when you swatch your finger in it, it's not like a super creamy smooth thing, because it is like loose glitter almost, not in an unflattering way, but like you can just tell it's super unique. I've never used an eyeshadow that looked like this. It's kind of like the Kaja bento boxes almost, in the same formula, but it's just so pretty on the eye. Whenever I use this palette, I will always use this and top it on top of my eyeshadow because I think it gives a really pretty sparkle. I also debated doing this pink shade right here because it is very pretty, but this one ultimately is my favorite in the palette, and it's just because it's so unique and it can really go with any eye look. And the formula on her shadows is so incredibly good. I definitely should have done that one last because it's going to leave sparkle on my hand. But the next palette is the Pat McGrath Celestial Divinity Luxe Quad in the shade Flor Fantasia. You guys know my love for this, and you guys already know what my favorite shadow is. It's the shade Lavender Blue, which is right here. This isn't an impactful shimmer, it's more of a satiny shimmer. But it's just a really sheer light purple with a blue shift. I turned the lighting down because I know it'll make the quality a little worse, but you can hopefully see the shadows better. And it's just a very pretty shadow. It's my favorite shadow in my entire collection because it isn't super dramatic and it's not a super bold color, but it still gives you that color and a beautiful shift, and I love it so incredibly much. Next, the Rowan 75 Degree Warm. This one is not hard, but like I use all these shadows. I think my favorite has to go to the J Adore. I'm American, I'm sorry, I'm awful, but it's just a like burnt reddy color. It doesn't have as much shimmer impact as the rest, but it's a lot creamier compared to the rest of the shades. Like you can just tell when you put your finger in it, it's much creamier versus these. You have to apply a little bit more pressure, which, I mean, this one doesn't have as much sparkle, but I just find that the shade and the ease of application because of that creaminess is just really nice. I definitely like a lot of the shades or all of the shades in this palette. I just wish these two were a little bit different, but I do like all of these. This one is just a little bit more hard pressed and it has a little bit different of a shimmer, but I think that I do like this one a little bit more. If you can't tell, I like more pink leaning shadows, and I think, I don't know, these two are my favorites, but I think I lean more towards the red one. Okay, the Makeup by Mario Master Mattes palette. This was not hard, but it feels almost silly to pick a favorite matte because I think these are all essential. But the matte that I use the most, and I think is a really good everyday matte, is the Matte 4 shade. It's just a very standard neutral brown, which I use a lot just in the crease. Like whenever I use this palette, I will almost always use this shade. And I just think it's a very good everyday neutral brown. I'm not going to swatch it because it looks the exact same as it does in the pan. So I love a lot of the shades in this palette, but that's probably one that I would definitely keep in my collection if I was making my own. Okay, I have two e.l.f. bite-sized eyeshadows, and in this one, which is Cream and Sugar, I think my favorite is this first shade, which is just a cream colored shade, because I use this one all the time. I will use this to set my eyeshadow primer, and I will also use it if I need to blend out any harsh lines or any really pigmented things, because it just helps it to blend right into my skin tone and also cancel out some of the blueness in my eyelid. But I love that one so much. I love this one for the inner corner as well, but this one definitely gets the most use from me. And then in the Rose Water one, hands down, this first shimmer is my favorite. I only keep this for this first shimmer. It's not an impactful shimmer, but it's such a really nice everyday pink leaning shimmer without being straight up pink. and it just looks very pretty in the sun as well because of the different reflex in it. I have two ColourPop palettes. The first one, the Star Wars Mandalorian, aka the Baby Yoda palette. I haven't played this one as much as I would have liked to, and definitely I bought this because of the green shadows, but I think the standout shade is this one called the Force. I'm pretty sure this is a Super Shock shade, but it's like a gold color with a really nice reflect in it. It's like a little bit of a greeny undertone, but it's still definitely gold and it doesn't flip green. But I just think this is so pretty on the lid, and I think this is most people's favorite shade in the palette. And while I did buy this for the greens, I would say that that's the prettiest shade. And then the ColourPop Raw Beauty Christie palette, which is the At Forest Sight palette. I have not used enough to say what my favorite is, but I think even if I used it a ton, I would know that my favorite shade is the shade Old Growth, which is just a pink color, but it's a little bit more of a earth toned pink, I guess. I mean, it's an earthy palette, but this is a really powdery palette, but it's like the color of my sweater. It's not like a bold baby pink, but it still is pink, and I really love it. And actually those shades together are really pretty. I should do a look with that, but it's definitely my favorite shade in the palette. I mean, it's the most wearable as well, so love that shade. Okay, next is the M Cosmetics Divine Skies eyeshadow palette. I believe now they call this the Magic Hour palette. I love every single shade in this palette, I will say. And this is really hard for me, but I ultimately ended up picking this pinky shimmer. I think it's really unique and isn't one that I find in a lot of different eyeshadow palettes. It's pink, but then it has like a goldish, yellowish flip to it, which isn't everyone's favorite, but I find it just looks really nice on the lids, and I think it makes my eyeshadow a little bit more fun. I recently tried out this bottom bronzy shade too, and I think that one is gorgeous as well, but honestly, I love every single shade in this, and especially the shimmers are basically tied in how much I love them. So this palette is so incredibly good, but I think I would ultimately pick that pink shade just because I really like using this on my lid as an everyday shade, especially because I am influenced by Jessica Braun. Okay, the Huda Beauty Gold Obsessions palette is a little bit newer to me, and I honestly haven't used every shade in this palette, but similar to that M Cosmetics ones, I think this one in the top left corner, which is upside down, but right here, is my favorite because it's pinky with that gold flip to it. This one's just a little bit less pinky and more like a rose gold flip, but I just think it looks really pretty. This is more of a sheer color compared to the M Cosmetics one. I don't know how to describe it, but that one is just so pretty. I also love this bottom shimmer. I know I'm cheating by telling you too. Definitely this first one is my favorite, but this one is really pretty for a more impactful look. But if I only had to pick one, it would be this top left shimmer. I also really like the matte colors. Like, I think they're on the pinky side, of course, so they're very good for every day without being bright pinks, and I honestly really enjoy this palette. Okay, now my Natasha Denona palettes. First one, Natasha Denona Glam. I, again, need to use this palette more, but hands down, my favorite shades in the palette are these first three. These two are pinky, and this one has, like, a pinky undertone. Like, it's definitely not pink, but I think it goes with the pinks. And my favorite is this shade called Inner Corner. It is a more impactful pink compared to this one, which is a little bit less impactful and more pinky, like darker pinks. But I did this in a look. I want to say it's the Using My Subscribers Favorite Makeup. This one is just such a pretty, like, rosy gold pink shade, and it gives so much impact on the lids, and it's so gorgeous. I would say that one, which is the Inner Corner, and then this Blend Matte are my favorite shades in the entire palette. Okay, Natasha Denona Bronze was hard as well because so many of these shimmers are so gorgeous. And, like, I wanted to pick Bliss and Silk because this is very impactful and Bliss is more unique because it shifts green. But my favorite is the shade Palladium. I always say Palladium, but I don't think that's how you say it. But it looks like one that I wouldn't be a fan of. But swatch, it just has this, not grunginess, but it's definitely a deeper shadow than one I go for, obviously. But I think this is so pretty, just all over the lid, and then just blend it out a little bit in the crease with maybe a little bit of a matte shade. But it makes my eyes pop, especially because I have green eyes and it's more of a brownie shade. I don't know how to describe it. It's just a shade that makes green eyes pop, and I think it's so beautiful. And if you haven't used this shade and you have the bronze palette, please go use it. It is very nice. I really like it. I could not stop wearing this shade one time when I had this in my Shop My Stash, and The shimmers are all very pretty, but that one just hands down stands out a lot in my collection. Actually, when I was thinking of filming the top 12 eyeshadows in my collection, the first one I thought of was that shade, so if that's any indication. But next is my Natasha Denona Tropic, which was my chance to finally pick some mattes. And this one was hard because I love so many of these mattes. I think my favorite everyday matte, and if I could only have one matte eyeshadow, matte eyeshadow, it'd be the shade Fake Tan, which is a neutral brown, but I think my favorite is the shade Nudist, which is a very light pink, and the reason I say that is because I love pairing this with my single eyeshadows. It swatches a little bit more sheerly, but it's very similar to a shade in the Pillow Talk palette from Charlotte Tilbury, the very long one. It's very similar to the pink matte that they have in there. I just think it's very pretty. It's a little bit more of a bright pink, but it still has a little bit of mutedness, and I think it just is really nice on the lids. This was hard. I usually mix Nudist and Peach Melon, which is a more lighter orangey brown color. I usually mix those. I also love Vintage Taupe, Peach Puff, Fake Tan. I love so many shades in this palette, and I think the mattes are so good, but ultimately I think Nudist is my favorite. And then last but not least is my e.l.f. J. Kissa To The Rescue palette. This was so easy. My favorite shade is the shade Suki, which is an orange shimmer. Oh man, I wore this so much when I got this palette because it's like a yellowy orange shade. I don't know if you can see it that well. It's a yellowy orange shade that doesn't give a super impactful and dramatic look to the lids, but it's still, oh my gosh, it gives such a beautiful, like, I don't know what it is in that shade, but it's so pretty, especially in the light. It is very flattering. It's not straight up orange, but it's like a creamsicle color almost, especially compared to like the oranges in this palette. I did wear it where I would combine just the orange matte with the orange shimmer, but I don't think that's as straight up orange. I think you could wear this with a brown and it'd be a little bit more everyday type of shadow, but that's hands down my favorite shade in that palette. So those were all of my eyeshadow palettes and also all of my favorite shades in those palettes. This was harder than it looks, obviously, by the fact that I would tell you like 3 different ones that I loved, but I thought this was super fun. I really want to see my friends do this. I want to see all my friends do this. Like, if you want to do this video, please let me know if you end up posting it, or like I'll be on the watch out for it, because I think this is so fun and it really tells like what type of taste you have in your palettes. I don't know, it's just, I really like this video and I thought it was a lot of fun, and I really want to see other people do this video. So if you do it, just let me know, or if you want to just do it in the comments and let me know some of your favorite eyeshadow shades in your collection, please do that. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you in my next one. Bye!